we're all tied up, and this first set is dead even.
Unbelievable combination.
Wow.
Beautifully done.
What a great spot.
Happy New Year and welcome to the 2025-26 APTA Tour. We are live from the Rolling Hills Country Club in Wilton, Connecticut, bringing you the 2026 Fairfield Open with live streaming brought to you by the APTA membership and our tour presenting sponsor, Corient. Tournament support has also been provided by the following local tournament sponsors: the Cocktail Collection, Open Pour and Serve, Fairfield County Women's Platform Tennis League, Fairfield County Men's Platform Tennis League, Rolling Hills Paddle Ladies, Voyage Group at Wells Fargo Advisors, Connecticut Dermatology Group, FX Air, Trivium, Connecticut GI, M4 Paddle, Xenon Paddle, Marchaco. I am Steve Sullivan, along with the one and only Patty Hogan, bringing you this men's quarterfinal match between number 2 seeds Ethan Leon and Matt Muoio against John Hughes and Mark Powers. Our chair umpire for today is Carol Iwertson. Patty, welcome to the stream.
Steve, thank you. Happy New Year. But I feel like this is a throwback, not only the team of Hughes and Powers, but to my 2025 Christmas. When I saw the draw come out, Steve, I was like, oh my God, this is a potential matchup that will be so exciting. The return of John Hughes after about 4.5 years away from the competitive, the top of the game. He lives up in Connecticut now. He's teaming up again with his buddy Mark Powers, who's out of the Piping Rock Club. Mark plays a ton of paddle. John Hughes, 7 or 8 times a year. He's up to 11, thanks to his first 2 wins, I believe, up against Ethan Leon, just one of the game's rising, sparkling superstars, in my opinion. He comes out of, he's a teacher over at Waynesboro Country Club, and then Matt Muoio out of Radley Run, another one of our rising stars in the game. This sets up, Steve, to be an incredibly exciting matchup, as is the case with all APTA tour events this year, Steve. We will be doing sudden deuce or no ad scoring. And what's the change with it this year, Steve, that's been so significant, do you think?
I mean, it's just the excitement and the pressure, the sudden deuce or the no ad scoring, server's choice as it's officially called. A little different from tennis, server's choice. The returner in platform tennis tends to have a little bit of advantage. So here it tries to balance it out, lets the server decide which side is more comfortable. But it makes those 40-15, 40-30 points a little bit more interesting, for the team that's sort of clawing back to get back into the game. We have lots of stats. We're going to show stats from court director, and those stats tend to indicate, Patty, that the team that rises up to win that point on average throughout the match is the team that's going to win. Not a big surprise, but I think it brings a little more excitement. It may bring the matches in a little bit from a time perspective. We had not only our national championship last year at Philly Cricket, Patty, that was a 5-hour match. We had a couple others that reached 5 hours, so I think this is also meant to try and make the match from a spectator perspective a little bit more enjoyable, from a player's perspective maybe a little bit more palatable, because these are long days, and when you have people that don't always play paddle a ton, or something like John Hughes, he may be feeling it tomorrow, right? Let's see how the day progresses. But yeah, I'm excited. I think it's going to bring a little bit of excitement, but I think the matchup is where the spectators are going to enjoy themselves today.
Oh, and you can see the spectators filing in. I mean, everyone around almost the paddle universe, I would say, is just thrilled that in this tournament, not only do we have the return of John Hughes, we also have the return of Mick Urdoya. He's advanced into quarterfinal play with Tomas Christian. I'm awaiting the announcement from our umpire here. I think we'll get it. We'll let Carol, the one and only Carol Everton, she's going to make the call on this match. Carol says she's an APTA umpire, does a phenomenal job, and especially she's going to stay warm. It's a cold day here in Connecticut, Steve, 30s, but Macy Elliott and Jeff Kong, just phenomenal job. They've got great spectator seating and sponsor tent back there. There's Teeter, Steve.
Yeah, so here we go. It looks like the teams are sort of ready and teed up. love the little pre-match conversation with Hughes and Powers in the high five or low five. Yeah, it'll be interesting. This is, you know, can you say just like riding a bike, you know, to John Hughes? I think you can, but you said in the intro, Patty, 7 or 8 times a year. Obviously, he's very busy with his family and his career. But this is exciting for us to see, and it'll be very interesting to see what sort of sparks, you know, the Hughes and Powers, sort of almost a dynasty, right? Not only their national championships, but a series of finals and semifinals.
Oh my God, Steve! I mean, let's let the match get underway, and then we're going to talk about the amazing run of Hughes and Powers.
So Mark Powers on the near side in the blue vest is going to serve his partner John Hughes at the net. That's Matt Muoio on the far side, deuce court, and Leon in the blue top.
Okay, I missed Carol's usual opening here. We'll just go right underway. You've got your game face on. You woke up with a lot of intensity, anticipating this match.
Yeah, maybe I'll look at the picture afterwards. Maybe I need to update that and have a friendly face. But this is going to be exciting. Let's see about the intensity. Matt Muoio here returning from Mark Powers.
Okay. So some of the keys to this match. Well, you know what? You know what's going to be fun, Steve? Let's make some picks right here. And you know, I always love doing this. And I'm going to give you first pick today. And all of those at home, you know, we already made our picks before we went on the air. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree, but we just have fun picking opposite teams. So, Steve, tell me who's going to win the match and why.
Yeah, tough one to call. I'll take Muoio and Leon. Let's be devil's advocate here. I think you got to ignore what's on paper. You got to ignore the historical results, you know, from 2015 and through 2023 from Hughes and Powers. Listen, this team is not only young, on the rise. You know, Ethan Leon might be, you know, one of the best players on the court this year. He's still, you know, gaining pad IQ, but yeah, I think you have to make an assumption that John Hughes is going to be a little bit rusty. But you know, this is why we're going to watch the match. I think they are the team that maybe should win based on their current playing, but I'm not going to put anything by Hughes and Powers. So Patty, I'll let you play the other side. 2 leg courts. Yeah.
Okay, so Steve, I'm glad I'm picking Hughes and Powers, one of my favorite teams of all time to watch. These guys are just the grace and class in our sport, and a dominant team, having played in 4 finals of nationals, 3 other semifinals. So they had an 8-year run where they were always one of the teams, always in the hunt. To talk about, you know, their losses in the finals of nationals. You know, when you lose to people who are in the Hall of Fame, I don't think there's no reason to hang your head. They just were a phenomenal team, and they were so good because we've seen Mark Nunez, who's teamed up with Guillermo Nunez this year, and you know, made their emergence and won nationals 2 years in Guillermo Nunez's first season, and you know, that's who Mark typically plays with now, but he's away, I believe, abroad for the holiday possibly. And so we got John Hughes to shake off the rust and come out here, and they're gonna win because they know they have such a body of knowledge of all of their accomplishments over the years, and the uncertainty and rust, I believe John Hughes probably shook off a little bit in those first 2 matches. They had really good matches, you know, competitive enough to give him a ton of looks, and now, you know, we'll see if we can go back to the same old formula, which is John Hughes, you know, crushing some high forehands. John Hughes running around like a madman. I think if he, you know, he controlled play at the net when they teamed up, and it used to be Mark Powers who had a ton of the overheads. Then John Hughes just developed the most phenomenal overhead, and that lefty, you know, just carving up his opponents in that deuce court. And so I think the overhead variety that Hughes and Powers have will be phenomenal to me to watch how Muoio and Leon respond to it, because they just haven't seen it yet. So I always think when you haven't seen it, it's kind of unique.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think listen, there was a 5-point streak to start the match. Muoio and Leon have to loosen up. They're probably feeling a lot of pressure. This is a daunting match to play on paper, but they responded pretty well, right? They lose the first 5, they win the next 4 points and get on the board. I think, you know, they're going to get some different looks. Obviously, Mark Powers is Mark Powers, but I think from Hughes as well, they're going to get streaks of his brilliance. I think we're already seeing, you know, him playing, you know, at a level that we expect him to play at. But I think, yeah, there's a little bit of a communication. That's the second. What a great cutter there. That's the second point where they looked at each other. First was a ball out of the nick and the other side of the court, but yeah, they have to get into their sort of partnering mentality and sort of know where each other's moving. This is not a unique thing from Mark Howard's perspective. Guillermo Nunez, another lefty, but yeah, he's got to understand the tendencies and very quickly sort of get themselves. My shoulder hurts just watching that shot, but 2 brilliant cutters from Mark Powers.
You know, Leon and Muoio, they're a joy to watch. They have fun out on the court. They play loose. I love their style. I love their talent. They've got everything it takes, you know, to continue their rise in our sport. A very fast rise here. You know, the thing that will be the difference maker for me will just be the mentality that Hughes and Powers have in terms of once they figure out where they want to attack, you know, are you going after the ad court, the deuce court? I would expect they're going to keep some shots away from Leon, it would be my guess, going into Muoio's deuce court, which then feeds into the John Hughes overhead over and over and over. So I would expect them to kind of try to break down Muoio and Leon by going after Muoio first.
Yeah, Muoio's going to probably have less firepower. He's a bit, he's very crafty, right? He's going to be the one sort of is exploring with his shots. He likes to dink and blitz. He likes to sort of create sort of surprise. He's very mobile. He's a super athletic kid. That's a great spot there by Leon. But the firepower and sort of the bigger shots are going to come from the other side of the net, from Leon's side. So I think you're right. You're probably going to, you can see Matt Muoio spinning the racket. He's going to spin it about 1,850 times during this match. There's that unbelievable forehand from Leon.
You know, the question mark is obviously John Hughes, and it's all going to come down to him in this match, you know. And I'll be just fascinated. He's such a mentally strong guy, just really one of our game's greatest players. But you know, you've been watching hockey games and soccer games and ballet recitals. You know, that's way different watching his twins, who are 4.5 now, Quinn and Carter. You know, it's very different than trying to handle the onslaught that you're seeing right here. And that onslaught, particularly from Leon, out of the ad court, and that's our first break speed in the match.
Yeah, and it's the physicality as well. This game can be hard on your body. It can be a very beautifully slow and methodical game to watch, but it can also be, you know, not just the level that, you know, some of us play at the club level, but 4 matches. You know, this is where John Hughes, we're going to have to sort of see, does his shoulder hold up? Do his legs hold up? I wonder if those 7 or 8 times a year have been in the last month trying to get ready for this tournament. But yeah, this is where I think Matt Muoio and Ethan Leon should target playing a very long, slow match, and, you know, see if the athleticism. This is a marathon of a day for John Hughes.
Yeah, but just what I saw when Hughes was broken there in that game. You know, that ball went through the middle from Leon out of that ad court. And it's little things like that, like your movement together. You know, they got to get used to working in sync in their net coverage and their positioning, which is going to be a little different than when Mark Powers plays with Guillermo Nunez. And
so that Mark Powers forehand was an absolute bullet. You know, we have Matt Muoio, who's really, you know, keeping to that underhand serve. A number of players, I think he was probably more prominent a couple years ago than it is this year. Matt Muoio really uses that low, soft underhand serve, and you know, Mark Powers made him pay in the last point.
I've never seen anybody serve like Muoio.
Yeah, it's sort of a dribbler, right? He sort of follows it in. He's almost one step in the court before he makes contact. It's legal, but it's yeah, it's great cold weather technique. However, when you have Mark Powers or John Hughes forehand on the other side of the court, it's also exposing your partner. Leon's going to be a little bit of a target up there.
Leon, you know, Muoio hitting a lot of overhead, Steve, back and forth. You know, they're just, it doesn't seem like they zeroed in. You know, I expected them to zero in and go after Hughes, but that's the problem. John is so good that, you know, they just added a little juice to that one, and John just returned the favor beautifully. Oh my gosh. What?
That's the third net court dribbler
But
from Powers and Hughes.
Shot, yeah, that shot from Mark Powers, there's no one in the game I've ever seen has made that amount of shots where there's a ball that, you know, you just think is a little bit behind him, but he has such amazing reactions and that wrist control where he comes up with those shots. That is incredibly challenging to do, and he does it all the time. You know, it's kind of a fun match, Steve. Like, everybody's hitting the ball. They're kind of, you know, they're going for their shots.
Yeah, they're playing. We debated at the beginning, right, Patty? How slow does Matt Muoio play? How slow do they play as a team? Oh, another bullet there. But I think you're going to get, certainly in Hughes and Powers' case, a team that wants to play paddle and wants to rip and wants to, you know, play their big shots. This is where their strength is.
Is this a second sudden deuce point of the match? Or first?
It is the first. All right, Leon and Muoio grab that first sudden deuce point to take a 3-1 lead.
Kind of surprised by that miss by Powers right there on that shot. Little uncertainty. And in a funny way, you know, you say all eyes on Hughes. Then it's like, you know, how is it supposed to feel for Leon and Muoio to be playing these legends in the game? But then, you know, I think about it, and I'm thinking about it a little bit as this match is going on. There's an incredible amount of pressure, I think, on Mark Powers in this match, because he's the guy who's been playing, and just, you know, how much does he go for? How much does he try to, like, help John out will be a curious thing without, you know, adding to his error rate, because I think Leon and Muoio, I just don't think they give away that much. You know, they hit a lot of random shots that I don't see any other teams really utilizing, but they make an incredibly high percentage of them. Just so unorthodox as a team.
Yeah, you see Matt Muoio on that last point, sort of very mobile, coming in, maybe not at the most traditional time against a team that you should be coming to net on in those cases, but this is the element of surprise, right? He hits a strange dink, he runs at you like a crazy person, and then he rips, and look at him, hands up, puts an absolute bullet, you know, in the next shot. So it is unpredictable, which I think makes this team not only exciting, but a little bit of a surprise. This is their first season really playing together. So yeah, this is, again, nothing's going to surprise Hughes and Powers per se, but it gives them a little bit of, yeah, less comfort in, you know, how to play these points.
You see that overhead from Hughes right there, that cut on that ball, Steve. I mean, that just breaks. That has broken down the best players in the game. Leon had a good swing, went for the shot, and that's what I would expect out of Ethan at this point. He's going to hit every ball he can. And I think, like Leon, that shot that he just hit, see how he held that forehand? He didn't pull the trigger right away. Kind of surprised Hughes and Powers because of volley error.
Yeah, he almost held an Eastern grip and just sort of hit a 60%, you know, flat pace ball.
Look at that spin. That's what I'm talking about, John. Muoio's doing actually a really nice job handling those two overheads easily. And that's a big change in the game where there's so many people who hit these tremendous spins that most of the players are used to it now. Where back when these guys were one of the dominant teams, a lot of players didn't know, you know, they just got put in the spin cycle by John Hughes. Hey Steve, Corian is the official wealth sponsor of the APTA's 25-26 season. Corian is a fee-only wealth manager who puts their clients at the center of everything they do. Learn more at Corian.com. Steve, you know, we know Drew Broderick's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year, and I think about overheads and the lefty overheads in our game, and how Broderick and Hughes, you see with Nunez, you know, Dan Hansen's a top player. You think of those guys who just put people in the spin cycle, and they don't let them off the hook, and they just put you on the defensive. You know, particularly for these lefties, for that deuce court player on the far side. And be curious as this match goes on, just if John can get that going and really break down Muoio.
Yeah, I think that's what we're probably going to see the most of. I think, yeah, John Hughes lefty spin, his height, I mean, I'm not comparing the heights of Nunez and John, but listen, he comes at it from a different angle, and we saw that last game, Patty. You know, he moved it, you know, 3 screens from one side, and then if he plays on the side screen, it doesn't make it to the back screen. So if nothing else, he's going to keep Muoio completely on his, you know, heels, not knowing sort of how to play the ball, because that's a nice job there, just putting the ball back on the court, take your medicine. This is one of the things that Matt Muoio brings to the game, just very good hands, but he's also very humble. Oh, that's just sick. That is an absolute killer. Just carved it right around Ethan Leon. Mark Powers, really nice hands there.
Muoio certainly is one of the quickest guys in the game. When you say now, Steve, like, he just does so many things really, really fast. I find him fascinating to watch.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Ooh, what?
Oh my Lord, what a shot from Mark Powers.
And as he hit that, I was about to say, I'm not sure 9 ground strokes in a row to Ethan Leon is the way to win the points, but of course, not surprising. Mark Powers proved me wrong. Huge backhand.
And you see, and there was a Mark, you know, he pummeled that shot, triple break point here against Leon. And Leon and Muoio just kind of were standing there watching. I don't think you're going to get away with that kind of positioning against when Powers is pulling the trigger. I think you got to commit. They got to really get on top of the net a little bit. And you could see right there, they were backing up. John had the ball of life, and he just missed it.
And you love to see the smile and the sort of enjoyment from John Hughes there.
He always smiles.
Wants that shot back. Trying to make sure Muoio knew he should have hit him in the kneecap. All right, 3-0.
That was a pretty important game. Big break of the serve, so breaks, you know, all evened out here in this first set. But Hughes and Powers, I was a little nervous in the early going. Now they seem like they've settled down a little bit. And I just think they are master tactical players. And Leon and Muoio themselves need to now channel some of the wisdom that these guys have learned over the years, what they've seen in other great teams. And they need to come up with a little bit more of a plan here.
Yeah, John Hughes is so technically sound, not only his net positioning or his racket head positioning, but I think you're right. The points they won in the first, well, in the second, third, and fourth games when they took the 3-1 lead, I think felt like they played really good points. John Hughes looked like he was a little bit off kilter. The question is, can you maintain that level of paddle, and do they need to do something more tactically, to your point, Patty? Not sure where those weak spots are. Matt Muoio just using his hands to stay in the point. foul. I would say that's the best shot. That's the best offensive shot we have in the game. Nunez has it, Russell Benkheim has it, of course, someone like Mark Powers has it. That kind of cross-court low, you let that ball drop at or below shoulder height, just sort of sweep across it, hits in the corner, almost hits the snowboard. Yeah, I love that shot. Mark Powers executed it perfectly.
Yep, Hughes is struggling in this game. Missed that first volley long. That was unsettling, and you could just see he wasn't comfortable. And that's the second break of serve on John Hughes in this set, giving Leon and Muoio 4-3 lead in the first set. Hey, Steve, can you tell us about the draw? What's going on all these courts around us right now?
Yeah, so we have a little bit of, you know, some different looks and different matchups where we're into the quarterfinals. Our #1 seed, Jose Salazar, not playing with Alvi Regalado this week, playing with Enrique Pardo de Andrade. They are into the quarterfinals where they're going to face Agudelo and Burish. And then as we move down, we have Hansen, Mendel, Benitez, Mello, Kraft, Nairati against Christian and Ardoya. You mentioned Nick Ardoya earlier, Patty. And then we come to this at the bottom of the draw with our #2 seeds, Leon and Muoio. So, yeah, this is always the beginning of this second swing of the APTA Tour season is always interesting with some different pairings. Some people still on vacation. You mentioned you may still see Guillermo Nunez perhaps with his family in Chile. But yeah, this is also a different look at different players and, you know, different matchups. So I like these early couple weeks before we get into the meat of the season, which is, yeah, 3 out of 4 weeks with Grand Prix coming up, starting with Boston in a couple weeks. So yeah, this is where the season gets fun.
Yeah, I think on the first point of this game, you saw them dump a ball kind of low, no pace to John Hughes' forehand. I think that's the play for them, and I think, you know, John, you can see it's just in the last 2 games, you know, the unforced errors are eking in. So now he's gonna have to settle down and let it be Powers time and see if Mark can't take over a little bit, and John, you know, just remain defensive-minded from that baseline with, you know, few unforced errors. I think he's got to give Powers a chance to get a few more looks just by keeping the ball in play. And John, you know, just really waiting for that high forehand if he can get it. I love that little backhand little chip he just hit to Leon. Just, you know, sped up play a tiny bit there.
Yeah, I like it as well. He hit it a couple times in the first game. That really sort of hard, not when he let get away from his body and his footwork, but, you know, it's just a different look. Not many people are going to hit a full pace ground stroke slice from the baseline, and you need to, you know, when you're volleying, you need to think about, you know, how to play that. It's a little bit of a different look. You know, I think the mental side, we are going to see a point, a game, a series of plays from John Hughes that are probably where he was 3 years ago. But, you know, it's 2 sets or 3 sets. You know, can you maintain that level? And mentally, this is a tough game. So, yeah, we're seeing a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah, last 2 games.
Yeah.
Leon. Yep, and that was the second sudden, you know, deuce point. And the second one, that was won by Leon and Muoio. And as we have seen, that is the difference in so many of these men's match. You know, thanks to the initiative by the APTA to switch up and go to no ad scoring, with the server getting the choice. You know, it's interesting. When I was thinking about John Hughes coming back onto the court, and I was thinking I would just expected streaky play, because I think it's an unbelievable thing to ask that you could sustain play after spending, you know, the last 5 years away from the game. And, you know, the game is so good and so fast that it's so hard to sustain that. So that's why, like, we're seeing some ebbs and flows. We're seeing some greatness with Hughes and Powers, and then we're seeing some, you know, uncharacteristic kind of misses that we're just not used to seeing them make.
Yeah, not only are we excited, Patty, but you can see the crowd. We have, you know, the really nice set of stands, the left from the viewer's perspective, and then we have behind us, I think, is a tent that's maybe a VIP tent dedicated to sponsors. You know, we not only talk about what Macy Elliott brings to the game on the court, but, you know, she's hosting this week and does a great job. A lot of volunteers, a lot of support from sponsors, and I think the right way to handle that is
Double set point, by the way, Steve.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, but double set point.
And there it is. Yeah, really strong finish. And with that, we will be right back in just a moment after these messages right here on the APTA YouTube channel with live streaming brought to you by ProFlight and match statistics provided by Court Director.
At Corient, wealth management begins and ends with you. We believe the more personal the solution, the more powerful the result. We treat your goals as our own. We never lose focus on the life you want to build. And our experienced advisors design custom-built strategies to help you get there. It's time for a wealth management experience as sophisticated as you are. It's time for Corient.
Welcome back to the APTA Tour. I am Steve Sullivan here with Patty Hogan at the Rolling Hills Country Club for this men's quarterfinal match between Muoio and Leon and Hughes and Powers. Patty, it was a sort of an interesting first set. It was a quick start. We saw a 5-point streak to kick off the match by Hughes and Powers, and then sort of a bit of a reversal. And yeah, some good competitive, really good paddle to get to 3-all, and then maybe a little bit of a lackadaisical finish to the set from Powers and Hughes. Yeah, what'd you see? What do you?
Yeah, I agree. One thing I'd like to see, what's John Hughes been up to? I would love to see a picture of John's amazing family. Look at that, the magic of Evan. There's John, Carrie, his wife, Quinn and Carter, his kids, and their little puppy. Thanks for showing that. That's what John Hughes has been up to. He's a great dad. He's a great husband. He's such a support in that family and really active role. And John, John's not in the industry. John works in affordable housing financing, and that's why we have not seen much John Hughes lately, but who knows? Maybe we'll get John's return more than once a year for a tournament. I would love that because I so enjoy watching him play, and just one of our game's fiercest competitors. My over-under on him today was I was wondering how many times he would hit the deck. In a vintage John Hughes, Mark Powers match. John Hughes used to go down. There was always blood. The tour directors, Jackie Cameron had, a box of Band-Aids just for John Hughes, and I think maybe Max lived there back in the day. They both used to go down, but John was known for giving it his all, at every moment in the match. All right, so the great thing that John Hughes is doing in Mark Powers, I love watching John Hughes volley. You see how he just sets the paddle and he waits for the ball to get to him. And I think that, I think to Muoio's and Leon's credit, they're doing a great job of mixing up their shots, which they do all the time anyway, and just some different paced balls, which is why I love them as a young team, Steve. I see a lot of people, they don't quite get the nuances of when to take something off it, when to add pace, et cetera, et cetera. And I feel like they're mixing it up really effectively, as the baseline team in this match so far.
Yeah, it's a tough miss there by Matt Muoio, but this team can play. They have all the shots. Their paddle IQ, I would say Matt Muoio's paddle IQ has been really, really high for a while, but Ethan Leon is, the newer player to the game. Yeah, he mixes, that's just a nice pace there. He mixes up pace and direction and spins, and he's got all of the capability from a racket's perspective to hit the really big shot. So, yeah, this is what you want to see in a young team. Obviously, they are battling a very interesting team here, and the team of today of Hughes and Powers. But I've sort of liked, I picked them. I'm not sure I had super confidence in that pick, but I've sort of liked how they've played some of these big points. I think Mark Powers is playing some big time paddle right now, but you mentioned this earlier, Patty. Sometimes it's tough, being the other person, not knowing what you're going to get here from John Hughes, not knowing if you have to pick it up. It's a little bit of pressure. Sometimes you can make it, a little bit unsettling for someone like Mark Powers, perhaps. But yeah, so far, Muoio and Leon have done everything that they, that we hoped they would do.
That was the third sudden deuce point third one in this match by Leon and Muoio. Steve, anything jump out to you here in the stats?
Well, it's the same as that last point, right? At 5-3, we said there's been 2 Sun-Deuce points, and, oh, by the way, the team that won them is up by 2 games. So these are, it feels a little bit one-sided. It's not, right? There's really 3 points that have determined where this match sits at the moment. So from that perspective, obviously the match is not over. I think Powers and Hughes are, gonna likely bring something more in the second set. But this is a type of game now, especially with this new scoring from the APTA, that you have to play the big points well. There's nowhere to hide. So yeah, this is something we're gonna keep watching.
I would expect for Hughes and Powers a point sort of like that. Couple of shots to Muoio, 3 shots, kind of soften him up a little on the baseline. Didn't give Leon any pace to hit there, and dumped, he dumped it in the net there. Hughes and Powers, I think, have to go after that deuce court. Muoio a little bit using that Hughes overhead. And I just wouldn't let Ethan Leon hit too many balls, in my opinion. He's so good.
Yeah, he's got that. You can see on that back end there, he's got very simple, balanced footwork. And he can just turn his shoulders with a very steady bottom half of his body and just, caught John Hughes completely off guard. So you're right. This is, sometimes it's a little bit simpler than you maybe think about it in your head. Matt Muoio is crafty, he's steady, he has some offense, but yeah, if you're Hughes and Powers, you got to keep battling that deuce court. And stay away from the weapons of Ethan Leon.
Okay, right here, Powers and Hughes have to stop the bleeding. There's bleeding going on right now. They've lost 3 games in a row.
Oh, don't miss that.
That was a gift right there. Now we have our 4th sudden deuce point. Will Hughes and Powers finally get one? They need it.
Wow. Big hands battle there. I sort of liked it at the beginning for Leon, and then I realized it was Mark Powers and thought, all right, that's a big...
Powers held. I mean,
yeah.
Monumental.
Yeah.
I think it was a must-hold game, personally. And, I just think, like, the errors that John Hughes is making, I feel like he's going to get stronger. I feel like he's just... I like that he's hitting his shots, and he's making some volley errors. If they can just clean that up a little bit, maybe get a little help from Leon and Muoio. They're playing a really rock-solid match. They're not giving away anything, Steve. When Powers had that ball, see how Leon stayed on top of the net, and Muoio took off, and Powers identified that right away. Just hit the open space and took over the net.
Yeah, it says a lot, right? It says Ethan Leon is not sort of scared to stay in there, but at the end of the day, that's probably the right play as well for Matt Muoio, right? Sometimes you need to play as a team and think about who's going to cover that back shot. You have to expect Mark Powers can hit it through you. So I like the movement, the defensive positioning there by Matt Muoio to stay in that point.
Yeah,
all right,
Matt
15
great.
love.
Yeah, great play and forced another volley error, out of John Hughes. I like that they're attacking Matt's serve. I mean, I do think that he's going to have to adjust this, because I think that people could hurt Ethan up there at that net, potentially. But it's interesting because there's not a lot you can do with it. The ball is such a low bouncing ball that you got to hit up to them. And that's the challenge, but that's kind of why I like to see some returns right at the guy at the net and make him pay. See if he can come up with it.
I think that kick says it all. Hughes a little bit frustrated with himself. I think he's See him stretching his arm a little bit. I think he's trying to get himself into this match. Just missed.
Did he make that, Steve?
He did not. He just long. I think he wasn't sure what the call was. Maybe can't hear the court sound at the moment on my side, but I'm not sure. Certainly a little frustration from Mark Power's perspective. But you know, Patty, you brought this up in the first set. Leon and Muoio aren't going to give you a lot. They're not going to give you a lot of juicy balls to hit. They're going to give you some, and you're probably Mark Powers. You're going to create your own opportunities, but they just don't make a lot of mistakes. So you're going to have to earn every point. When you have that underhand serve as a returner, it can be very frustrating when you think you should be, you know, crushing everyone, getting quickly back on offense, and you know, sometimes that's not what happens. I think that's a little bit of the expression you can see on Mark Power's face. Yeah, just looking for an opportunity to change the momentum of this match.
So, Leon and Muoio, I mean, they're rising the game. We know they're like young superstars in our sport. They're the tournament's second seed here. And Steve, I think they'd be good guys for you to get onto your team nationals team. What are you thinking about signing up for team nationals this year?
Played friendly yesterday with 3 guys from 3 different clubs, so 4 different clubs represented. We played a fun friendly, and honestly, we finished the conversation about can't wait to try, you know, team nationals. I think the Mid-Atlantic and the Baltimore market has done very well. You know, certainly when it's on the East Coast, you know, sending a lot of teams. So yeah, I am absolutely looking forward to potentially my first year playing team nationals.
Ah, well, it is such a highlight. Mike Raleigh does a phenomenal job, and Greg Morgan in running the events. Canoebrook will be the host club for the men's team nationals this year, along with Indian Trail Club. And then out in Chicago, Mike Raleigh's he's lining up his troops and clubs, and we'll report more by next weekend. Doing a lot of team national stuff this week. And team nationals is great, where you get 6, 7, or 8 of your buddies together, and your PTIs need to be within about 15 points of each other, and you form a team and let the fun begin, Steve. And you know, questions come up. What do you do if you don't have an opportunity to play in a league? Or let's say you're John Hughes and you don't have any results for the last couple of years. How do they figure out where his PTI is? You know, the PTI algorithm, you know, is derived from, it can be practice play, match play, tournament play. They have different values. And if you're one of those people from around the country who don't have the opportunity to play in a league, but you want to play team nationals, make sure that you get practice matches in with people within 15 points of your approximate level, because APTA throws out, I believe, if there's more than a 20-point PTI differential, the match doesn't really factor in. So for the PTI to be accurate, they need relevant matches within your bandwidth of talent, if that makes sense, Steve.
Yep. I think that's you know, something we're encouraging in Baltimore is more players are coming into our league. I think we're 500 men's members strong this year, the men's interclub league. We added Division 5, and in that division, lots of new players and new rackets players. So we are doing the exact same thing. We're encouraging people to play practice matches, log them, get some PTI activity. So it also makes getting people into interclub a little bit easier to know where to position them. So sounds like great advice, and yeah, looking forward to team nationals.
Yeah, signups will begin early February, and so this is the time. Spend January getting your team together, because what happens, Steve, is that thing sells out. We can accommodate almost up to 80 teams from around the country, but there's a maximum that we can take, because we have to be able to figure out all the food, all the courts, everything. It is one of the most challenging tournaments to pull off, and that's where I say Mike Raleigh and Greg Morgan just do a phenomenal job handling that event. That day, Saturday of Team Nationals, is such an intense day to manage, but you know, it gets done, and it's really one of the highlights of the sport for most players. So really get your team organized now, because one of the problems we see, Steve, is teams will sign up and they'll be like, we want to play and we don't want to lose the spot, but we only have 5 players. Well, use the month of January to make sure maybe you have 7 so that you have, you know, 1 extra player in case someone has an injury.
All right, good advice. Patty, we are on another 5-point win streak. You can see, you know, in our graphic up on the screen by Leon and Muoio. So this is crunch time. This is where Powers and Hughes need to sort of step up and get back in this match.
Yeah, I think Powers and Hughes were relieved for the moment when Powers held serve in that second game. But then all of a sudden, you could just feel a dip in their energy out here.
Yeah, making John Hughes really sort of work. And hey, all the credit to Leon and Muoio, just playing simple, steady, high quality paddle like they've been playing all season. So they're not intimidated. They're, you know, playing the match smart. Obviously they're attacking John Hughes, which makes sense. And it's already, yeah, 3rd match of the day. This is half a year's worth of paddle from John Hughes, so.
Looks like a bitch. Just anytime I drink something.
Let's listen to some of the sounds of the match here. A little technical issue there, but now we're going to hear the voice, I believe, Carol Everton, our umpire. So 8-point streak, all the momentum, everything's going in the way of our tournament number 2 seeded team of Ethan Leon and Matt Muoio. They're playing a phenomenal match here against 2 of the greatest players in our game, Hughes and Powers. Had a streak. They played 7 years, I think, together. Made it to the finals of nationals 4 times. Won a national championship and had 3 other semis. Steve, to make 1 final is amazing. To make 2 finals, I mean, they're just, that's how good a team Powers and Hughes were. For those of you who are not quite history buffs like some of us.
And who is, Patty, that team that they sort of knocked off to win their first national championship?
Oh, well, you know, that would be Broderick Palmer. Won 3 state, have the 3-peat going in nationals. And they were defeated, I believe, in 2018 by John Hughes and Mark Powers. So they stopped the streak of Palmer, Broderick, one of our game's amazing players, amazing teams, one of the greatest teams, in my opinion, in the history of our sport. You know, and from there, in 17, when these guys started playing, they made the semis. 18, they won the finals. In 2019, they made it to the finals, lost to Araya and Parsons. They made 2 straight semifinals, going out to Burris Erdoya, an eventual winner. They lost to Durant Mitchell. And then they played 2 more finals of nationals, going out to Durant Mitchell and Burris Erdoya again. So their losses are only to the great names in our game. And like I said, I just can't even convey to everybody how good as a team they were in the time, in their time. So now 4.5 years goes by and a total change in the game. All these new players, you know, Leon and Muoio, they were probably in about middle school when these guys were dominating. So it's a treat to get the legends out here together. And it's equally a treat to see these young stars of our game.
So Patty, we just saw the sort of classic Matt Muoio hard cutter from the baseline halfway up to the moon. Did not phase John Hughes one bit. A little more form than function, you could say, on that shot. But let's see. Hey, 40 love. Let's see if we can get this match a little tighter in the second set.
All right. So big relief. All right, this is it right here. Must break. They got to go after. They got to go after Matt here. You can see John is just hitting measured return of serves. He doesn't want to make error early in the point. He wants to give their team a chance to get into the point. Great touch from Muoio right there. Steve coming up 2:30, women's semifinal action. We have, I think the live stream will feature our tournament #1 seeded team of Macy Elliott, our tournament director, and Lisa Lalich up again. Taya Page and Darich. You called the Page Star quarterfinal earlier. They're a really fun, explosive team, and that's going to be a fascinating matchup at 2:30.
Yeah, Sarich and Page took out Sutter and Gabby Nicolescu, match we called earlier, me and Lauren Mandel. And yeah, it's obviously Taya Page is Taya Page. Mila Sarich, one of the newer young players in the women's side, who's also a lefty. A lot of interesting talent. You know, I could see during that match her getting better and better. Obviously, it will be a different challenge playing against Macy Elliott and Lisa Lalich, but yeah, that's actually going to be a great semifinal match later. See the hands, that was a little bit ambitious there by Ethan Leone, but Mark Powers is trying to exert his game on him there, which I think is the right, you know, maybe Mark Powers needs to bully these guys a little bit here.
Well, I like that, you know, Leone gets in his face, like he's like, you know, bring it to me, and I like that Powers did bring it to him. And I think Powers gets enough looks. You know, we need Powers to do something magical here. I think John is just hanging on. He's doing a good job right here during this stretch, and he's just got to kind of keep it together. What a beautiful shot. Vintage John Hughes coming off that back screen, whipping that backhand around. You know, we see a couple players in the current game who definitely probably modeled that shot off after lefty John Hughes. And I want John Hughes. Like, this is John Hughes right here.
Yes, there you go.
I'm like, yes, I remember that guy. And I like that John hit the overhead right into the body of Leone, who was in a deuce court at the time, and then cut it over to the ad court. I think John hasn't had success going to that side screen in that deuce court, it seems, where Muoio's gotten the best of him in this match. So that's why I kind of like Hughes just firing his overhead straight into the body of who's ever standing there in the deuce court, and see if you don't get a short lob and then go from there. You know the emoji, Steve, that has the fist pump? Did you know that was John Hughes' right arm?
I know now. All right, big, yeah,
things
big
you
point
learn,
there.
Steve.
I know, it's amazing. Early to the world of emojis. So yeah, huge point, huge game. I think you get back to 4-3, and this is exactly what you would hope to see. Muoio, in that case, just pushing the envelope of appropriate shot making to a little bit past yeah, what he should be doing. So yeah, you want to see some free points. I think the crowd support, you saw it a couple points ago, John Hughes putting his hands up. Yeah, I saw a little bit more determination in some of his cutters in the last few points. So yeah, let's get a little energy, a little excitement. The magic, you know, we know can come back for a few games, and yeah, to me, now's the time. Down 4-3.
Right here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right here. This is gigantic because when you haven't played, you lose your legs a little bit, and serving is, you know, when you struggle on your serve, sometimes when your legs are shot, that's how it can be a real negative. And so John has struggled on his serving games here. This is huge. Right here, like in this match, you know, he's streaky where you can't have any more error streaks. Great serve. And I mean, that sounds stupid. It's not like he's making errors on purpose, Steve, but when you know you're falling into that pattern, you've got to stop yourself as a player and just play it a little safer by a tiny bit of time. Just think about a little higher percentage response. Look at that two-handed backhand from Leone. He just gets inside that baseline, creeps in there, takes time away, unloads on that shot. Handled beautifully that time.
Yeah, love the crowd that's building here around this court.
Oh, the crowd showing up, Steve, because there's happy hour at Rolling Hills today. Anybody, fans, players, open bar, Steve. Not for you or me. For the others.
Well, I think I'm about a 3.5 hour drive. What time's the happy hour start?
I think it starts about 4. And they've got one tomorrow morning as well. So if you leave Baltimore now, Steve, I think you're going to be fine for the Bloody Mary Mimosa Bar. A ton of amenities making this event, like Jeff Gong and Macy Elliott, really one of the favorites on the tour already in only its second year.
And yeah, big kudos to them, not only for the effort to fundraise and build volunteer bases to support a tournament like this, but investing all of that into the player experience and the fan experience, right? This is such a fun community sport that, you know, this is, yeah, it's a grind for the players. The more people they're cheering, the more energy they have, the more, you know, they bring to the court. And yeah, of course, from a spectator perspective, I think last time we looked, Patty, 32 degrees feels like 21 degrees. So this is classic Connecticut cold weather. You need to, yeah, do something, maybe lubricate the veins a little bit with some happy hour.
And massive
but just fishing there. Yeah, just fishing there. There it is.
You know, I said there was a dip in their energy. They're getting some energy off of the crowd, and that's huge for them right now. I always think about, like, when you're losing your legs, really bend your knees, because you just don't realize how much it impacts your service motion.
All right, sudden deuce. They're going to make him go right back at it. Jeez, what a pick up there. The unexpected shot by Matt Muoio.
I love that aggressive play from Powers in there. And way to go for Ethan. Just, you know, took a chance, moved in, forced the volley errors from Powers, and Leon and Muoio up 5-3 second set, having won the first set. 6-3, quarterfinal action from the Fairfield Open.
So we had a, yeah, I was just gonna say, Patty, we had a 3-0 lead early in the sudden deuce points. I think Powers and Hughes won one, but I think there've probably been two more that, yeah, Leon and Muoio. This is, you know, a 6-3, 5-3 match with 4 or 5 point edge on those sudden deuce points is all the difference.
You know, you said it earlier, the match is a little closer than what the score is. And, you know, just little plays like that, like just a half a second off making that shot. Ball got a little dipping ball, couldn't come up with that ball. That's where Leon's got to do a little bit more with that overhead. He just left that there for Powers just to jump on. Double break point for Hughes and Powers right here. And obviously a must-win game. This is where I wouldn't let Mark Powers touch the ball.
Yeah, they're playing with fire over there, Patty. Oh boy, head goes back. Your Mark Powers. Just a great point. Very, very well balanced point. They waited for their shots. Yeah, just didn't execute. So another break point. Obviously must win 2 game points with a sudden deuce following this one if they can't get through here.
Really really smart overhead that Leon just hit there. Got the volley error. You know, he just kind of dumped the ball to John, didn't give him anything to hit.
Match point, game point. Match point, game point, and they pick Powers. Tactical error, Patty. Server's choice.
Oh my God, of gigantic proportion.
I mean, are we the only ones that wanted to like hit the siren button and say stop and hit it to the deuce? I mean,
I was just thinking everybody at Waynesboro Country Club and Radley Run outside Philly are in shock. Why would you hit the ball? Why would you serve Mark Powers right there?
but yeah, you love it. Obviously, the instincts kicked in. John Hughes pounced, knowing Mark was not going to hold off on that return. So, all right, we're back, and Mark Powers, you know, serving to stay in this match.
He's the guy I want to have the ball right now. I have a lot of confidence in Mark Powers right here in this situation. John Hughes played a really solid last game, minimized his unforced errors. That was significant. Good hands from Powers there. Saw Muoio sneaking in a little bit, put the ball at his feet.
It was a deep lob, but a little bit of miscommunication there.
Again, phenomenal idea from Hughes to try to pick that ball off, kind of force something. He's trying to insert himself into an offensive position. So I think that's a good miss. All right, Dale gonna hit a drive his backhand over his forehand here, Steve.
Backhand drive, yep. Good serve, absolutely right in the gut. That's the superpower of Matt Muoio, is that digging.
Oh man, is he good at that.
Yeah, and you see John just shouting out to him those two incredible digs. Looky here.
looky, we got 5 on second set. Hughes and Powers are back. And, you know, they did get a little assist from Matt Muoio in that game there. And Matt did make those 2 gets he got. They were unbelievable. And then he missed the easiest shot in the game, you know, to end the point. And huge relief for Hughes and Powers.
And it's where that sort of pressure, I mean, whatever pressure they feel that they should win this match, yet playing, you know, one of the best teams in our, you know, in our sport in the last 10 years. Yeah, that's when a match gets tight. If you're using Powers, you just want to stay close and know you're going to get opportunities, and that's exactly what they did. They wasn't perfectly beautiful, you know, paddle to grind back, but when it mattered, they played some big points.
Shout out to Carly and Mark Franklin. Friends of mine from Glens Falls Country Club in Queensbury. They're enjoying the action courtside. They heard about the open bar this morning from Charlotte Gillette, another player there. They headed over. I got a confirmation from Waynesboro Country Club. Annie O'Shea, who's a longtime teaching pro there, she agreed with my statement that everybody couldn't believe that they served that ball to Powers.
You know, sometimes it's where you feel more comfortable swinging away and generating that spin. Obviously, a righty to the at court, for some is more comfortable than a deuce court from a, you know, relaxed arm spin perspective. Could have been a complicated decision. We simplified it, and sometimes, yeah, it's the first most logical answer is the right answer. Avoid Mark Powers.
Hey, you know, I spoke about wisdom. You learn only by, you know, questionable decision making or execution. Hey, maybe I could have done something different in that situation. That's a real obvious one for them.
All right, way to bounce back. 40-15, double game point.
See both Leon and Muoio on their volleys. Both of them keep their 2 hands on every volley for the most part on their backhand. Steve?
Yeah, a little bit unorthodox.
Well, you know, I'm a big fan of starting with 2 hands on your paddle for volleying, and that helps kind of set your timing on the shots. And then when a ball's hit really hard, I find it tremendously advantageous for me to keep that second hand on some of those balls, as long as I keep my paddle head above my wrist. And that's what these guys, you know, they can do it easily. And the 2 hands, 1 hand, it doesn't even make a difference for them. But I'm a big fan of always starting, you know, having that ready position with that second hand nearby at all times. So if you need it because of the pace of the ball coming your way, you have it.
All right, so a new ball, and John Hughes serving. He had that last game, you know, 3 faults in his last service game.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous for my pick right now, I got to admit. But like I said, we decided before we come on air, we're going to make picks and we're going to say why they're going to win. And both of us could make an argument why, you know, on both teams, why they're going to win the match. And, you know, Leon and Muoio just, you know, just the subtle difference, mentally a little tough. And they've played the sudden death, you know, the sudden deuce points much better than Powers and Hughes.
Yeah, good playing, buddy.
Yeah, just keep going at it. Great, sort of strong, confident point. This is the old John Hughes, you know, that lefty variable, you know, overhead. This is, oh boy.
You heard Powers a point ago say, come on, buddy, like always supportive.
Yep.
And it's interesting because in the last 2 games, Powers has made a few unforced errors that a little surprising. All right, this is where he's got to take his time.
So Mark Powers letting that ball go through to John Hughes is the right play. Also signaling we're going to attack the deuce side. You know, whatever we're doing here, Matt Muoio is going to have to beat us on this point. So it seemed to be a little miscommunication, but it's sort of the right strategy and sort of signals what they're trying to do here.
I love how Leon is so comfortable creeping inside the baseline. And he just has so much confidence in his shot making. Look at for good reason, Steve. He's
Yeah, I mean,
phenomenal.
that hands battle activity, that he loves it, and he loves it for a reason. He's just got an incredible amount of calm and confidence when he comes to the net.
Yeah,
All right.
Ethan would love that shot over again.
Our second sudden deuce match point and game point.
You. I got it. Watch it.
Yeah, Powers knew he hung that ball up way too high for Leon, so they correctly and wisely failed.
Oh boy.
Great low ball from Leon there.
Yeah,
Goes to that.
really good. Game, set, match, Leon and Muoio.
You know, and Steve, how fun was that Well,
Thank you very much.
you know, the sudden deuce wins. 3-2 Leon Muoio. I'm not sure it was 3-2, Steve. I thought it was maybe 4-1, but I could be wrong on that. I don't think court director's ever wrong, are they, Steve?
Not to my history, but I was reading it the same way you were, Patty, so I think you and I were on the same page.
Yeah, so, you know, really solid match for Leon and Muoio, and just such a treat. Seriously, it felt like Christmas morning today, knowing that we were going to get to see one of our game's all-time greatest teams come back out, and they came up just a little short. You know, the difference was not monumental. The sudden death, the sudden deuce game certainly played a factor in there, but most importantly, Leon Muoio really didn't give anything away. You know, they had one or two questionable decisions, but all fun. They played a great match. And Steve, who are they going to be up against in the semifinals?
Yeah, Christian and Ordoya made it through. So that's a 5 o'clock match. In the meantime, you're going to be coming back, I think, at 2:30 for the women's semis. So yeah,
Okay.
more paddle tonight and tomorrow morning.
All right. Well, Steve, I enjoyed that match. Thanks so much.
All right, that's a wrap. Thanks, Patty.
At Corient, wealth management begins and ends with you. We believe the more personal the solution, the more powerful the result. We treat your goals as our own. We never lose focus on the life you want to build. And our experienced advisors design custom-built strategies to help you get there. It's time for a wealth management experience as sophisticated as you are. It's time for Corient.